everyone, my name is Momobo Ogoro and this is Show Racism the Red Card. Today we'll be going on a journey and learning what racism is, why diversity matters, and why we should have a more welcoming and safe community for everybody. Firstly, in order to understand what racism is, we need to know the history. Around 500 years ago, when European powers were colonizing new land, they wanted wealth and power. They made up reasons to treat people from Africa, America, and Asia as less than, to take over their land and make them slaves. It was common to use fake science to say that these groups were naturally different and should be treated unfairly. And those ideas have been sadly spread for centuries. So what is racism today? It's a word that we hear all the time. What does it mean, and how do we start to recognize it? Let's start with a clear definition. Racism is treating someone unfairly because of their skin color, religion, nationality, and culture.
Racism to me is me being treated differently because I'm black. And people they see me as that, just a black person, not as Bori or as who I am. All they see is just that I'm black, and that would affect how I'm being spoken to, it would affect how I'm being treated, it would affect how, I'm just being responded to in certain situations, that if I wasn't black, it would not be that way.
Racism would be in my own words, I think it would be just discriminating someone, making fun of someone because they're different, religious belief, skin color, hair color.
I've been called knacker, tinker, all kinds of stuff like that, and I don't get it because we're all human, we're all the same. It's not like I'm an alien and all them are normal, but it's not right what they're doing. And I've often went into shops and they told me to get out just because of I'm a traveller.
Why should we be against racism? Our next speakers are going to share some of the reasons why we should not stand for racism.
So I think that racism is very close-minded in general, and I think that it really can close someone's world up and make them very isolated, because if you feel like someone is thinking something about you for something that you cannot change, then you're not going to feel welcome, you're not going to feel a part of the community, and you might retract from it.
It's unfair that people get treated differently because of their nationality or skin color. I would say how would you feel if you were that person that was being called all racist names and all?
I guess it matters to everybody because we're all part of the human race. We all should be looking out for one another, and even if we all haven't directly experienced racism, we might have friends that have, or heard stories secondhand about people that have been subjugated to things like discrimination, either in the workplace or at home, or even just light-hearted comments that can be, throwaway words, but hurtful as well.
Listen to the experience of children and athletes having experienced racism in our next section, and you will immediately understand the importance of standing up against racism.
I've been called one slur before. Sometimes people make stereotypes, and then other times people there was this one boy and he pointed to my skin. He was like, you're too white to be Thai.
Yeah, one time I just come here, go to school, on the way back home, and somebody will just say some racist word to me. My brother told me that Ching Chong is kind of racist to Chinese.
Sometimes when people call me the N-word, I get shocked because it's not something my parents would be oh, you can say it, it's because I'm black and I don't even say it, so.
Oh my God, wearing that hijab around, it's not safe for you, and they tell us stuff like that. You can get hurt if you wear it, and it doesn't really make a safe place. It makes you really anxious when you're walking around.
In my last school, they already said that Brazil is dirty. This is my country that I'm born. That feel me so bad.
When I tell people oh, I'm half Romanian, half Indian, Romani, they always give me this look and say, oh, that's an interesting combination, and it's already hurtful like that. I remember they told me something oh, I hate Indians because they always steal my shoes, and then they expected me to laugh. I guess people just think it's okay to joke about these things, which definitely isn't okay.
I was like a small group of friends. Usually we go to like McDonald's and stuff. Two of them, they're both Arabic. Sometimes we'd run into kids and stuff and we'd be like joking around. But they were starting to make like racist sort of remarks about like 9/11 jokes and stuff, or like anything stereotypical about them.
It's not just students that have these challenges. People in sports also experience racism, and some are here to share their stories.
Tight little pitch, and I was right by the touchline, and for whatever reason he shouted "black," and I could hear it, and I could hear the reaction of the people around him. They kind of realised, you know, what are you saying? Like, they shushed down a bit. They realised that's not a good thing, which was good also to hear, you know. So the people around him realised he was being foolish.
One time, one old people, men, follow me. China, he said. Very, very, my feel is very bad, very sad. I crying.
Just a lady, I called her out on something that she shouldn't have been doing in the park. Her dog defecated in the park, and I kind of called her out for it, which she wasn't happy about. And then her default reaction was to kind of insinuate, you know, that I shouldn't be here and that I'm not from here, you know. So I just tried to speak to her, like let her know I am actually from here. Despite the colour of my skin, I'm from Wexford.
My own community, my cousins, my brothers, other family members, and even teammates, that they have unfortunately been suspect to racial abuse, and I know that it's awful. You shouldn't be treated differently just because the colour of your skin or just because of where you're from.
Some people have grown an armour against it, while others feel crushed. Racism is toxic, and its effects run deep. Here are some people to talk about the impact that it has had.
It doesn't really affect me too much. I've dealt with it before, and you know, I understand why people are the way they are at times, but just being with my child, I didn't think it was nice, and something that I don't want him to kind of have to deal with in the future, you know?
I feel sad and like, yeah, just really sad when you like get called that. But yeah, sometimes like anger because you like get called it so much.
It feels hurt and sad and everything like that because it's not fair.
It can leave lasting damage, and it can be very hard for families, mums, dads, teachers then as well, for the wider community to pick up those pieces, like, you know.
And oftentimes they don't really even know how to address it, or they don't even recognise it maybe as racism.
It's important to remember that racism doesn't just happen in person, it also happens online.
In social media especially, that is where you do get the most amount of racism, I think. Like you see people winning races or representing Ireland. Just recently actually in the marathon, Hicko, who won the marathon in a new Irish record, the comments on that was just ridiculous.
I mean, you see a lot of it online towards some of the Irish athletes, and they're like, oh, they don't look Irish. They're not Ireland, that's not a true reflection of Ireland, but Ireland is completely different now. Ireland has changed, the demographic of Ireland has changed.
It's easier to say things rather than it is in person, so it's a lot more on social media.
It's so anonymous. Like,
yeah.
I feel like they're not going to get sanctioned for it because there's no face to put it, like there's nobody really accountable.
In real life, if you say something, they know who you are, they have your face, whereas on social media, you can pretend you're someone you're not.
There is a culture of trolling with racism and different things, and that is terrifying.
I think it's just really mean to be like talking about someone online and just talking about their looks or the way what they believe or their fate.
I think that social media is a really hard place for young people these days. You know, it's so all-consuming, and everything that's there is kind of not always an accurate representation of how most people feel. I think we need to remind ourselves that just because we see things on social media doesn't mean they're acceptable, or that we should stand up for behaviour like that if we saw it in the real world.
There is always something we can do to combat racism. In our next segment, we will look at suggestions of how to combat it when we see racism in online spaces.
For me, if you see any of that content, certainly report it, get it blocked, and certainly raise it.
Don't give it attention. Like, don't encourage it, don't humor it, just I feel like even you shouldn't really comment on it because you're just gonna get more responses like, oh, you're being sensitive, and then I feel people will keep making that content. I just feel like ignore anything negative, like any racism, anything. If you ignore it, they'll oh, no one really responded to this, I'll stop type thing.
I often find myself scrolling on my phone and I see negative videos or negative images. I think it's important that we research into those and don't just use the clickbait and see what's there, that we check the background of these things. It's people who unfortunately are spreading bad images that we shouldn't be looking at. So it is out there, but make sure that we're getting correct sources and checking our knowledge that we have.
No one should suffer in silence. This is what you can do if you experienced racism or if someone needs your support and empathy.
As a kid experiencing racism, just know that that is what other people see of you, it's not who you are. Just know that for every one person who's racist to you, you have most likely 100 people who are the opposite, who actually love you for you and who believe in you and who are actually going to be there for you. So look for some people you can trust that you can talk to.
You need to go to your parents, go to your teachers. They will listen. Go to your aunties, whoever is there, someone you trust that you know has your best interests at heart.
If I saw somebody that I was playing with or somebody that I was out in the real world with who was experiencing racism or being a victim of racism, I think I would be very quick to make sure that I stood physically beside that person who was a victim in that moment, to make sure they felt like they weren't alone, maybe encourage them to leave the situation, ask them do they want to come away somewhere different with me to remove them from it, and if I felt that it was safe and appropriate to do so, I would certainly say to the person who I felt was being racist that I didn't appreciate their behaviour or their language, and explain to them that it wasn't appropriate and there wasn't a place for it.
I guess we can all be a part of, combating it and fighting it and making sure that people feel secure and they don't have to feel ashamed of where they come from.
Celebrating diversity and fostering inclusion is a non-violent and positive way to combat racism. Listen to these inspiring thoughts and be proud of the diversity of your community.
I think celebrating what we have in common is very important, and then recognising and celebrating the differences that are there.
I think diversity is so important because we can't all be the same person, and if we're all the same it would be so boring and no one would ever learn or grow or prosper without the different insights from other cultures and other people.
If we had all the same people, we have all the same hair colours and everything, that would be, you'd be all the same and then you wouldn't be here, you would be all dressed the same and everything. But it's actually nice to have different people.
When people are enthusiastic to talk about their own culture, that's really helpful to other students, because it's nice to learn and it is nice to find out new things about people.
The only way that we're going to make Ireland a better place in terms of diversity and racism is that we teach the younger generation, and they make friends in school and it doesn't matter what colour they are or where they're from. You see kids, they're talking to each other, they mightn't even speak the same language, but they're still able to have fun. And I think that once we can continue to do that and teach the kids and educate them, that we will eventually get a better Ireland.
Let's hear how our athletes think about diversity in their sports and the changing landscape in Ireland.
You go to any football club in the world and you'll struggle to find a team that is just one nationality. There's a mix every club I've ever been at, and it's great as a footballer because you become friends and almost family with your teammates.
In Shelbourne ourselves, diversity and inclusion it's top of our programmes, for the main reason there's such a gap out there in society to close and to bring diverse communities together.
I think within the GAA there are still barriers that we need to remove before diversity can continue to increase. So for example, at the moment you look at GAA, it's a very white dominant sport, we probably don't have representation. We're starting to see more members of the LGBT community within the female side of GAA, not so much on the male side, and I would like to see that continue to improve and for people from those groups to feel that they're safe and represented within GAA.
People might not be used to seeing a black person, for example, maybe in a local GA field because it's been predominantly white. So that can, that dynamic can change when someone comes in and with a different background. And I think it's awareness of actually their background, it's respecting their background.
I don't think there's any place for racism in Ireland, especially not in the GAA. I think that as Irish people, we've always emigrated and gone abroad and been welcomed in other places, and I think that it's only right that when people come here, we should welcome them. I think Ireland has a lot to offer, and I think that our culture and our sports are richer because of the people that come and join us.
It's been an eye-opening journey. hearing from students, teachers and sports people about why standing up against racism is so important. Each and every one of us can make a difference by showing kindness, celebrating diversity and speaking up when we see racism. So let's all work together to show racism the red card.
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 Tor carta jarg de Cnevis.
Show racism the red card.